Right, okay, it's time for us to go into the Kenny Thomas interview right now, and there is more to the interview than we're bringing to you today. We talked quite extensively during the interview about the album, The Thomas Brown Affair, which is not out yet, but when that is released, we'll put together a Kenny Thomas special. There was also quite a long section in the interview where we talked about Kenny Thomas's qualifications and interest in Chinese medicine and also acupuncture, which I think I will add into the special because I think that's probably more of a Kenny Thomas special thing than it is a breakfast show thing. So there'll be more features later on with the rest of the interview, and this is what we bring to you right now. Hello, it's Sound Fusion Radio.
Hi, is that DJ Gloss?
Yes, it is. Hi, is that
it's Kenny?
Hi, Kenny. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Very well. Nice to hear your voice coming through loud and clear.
Lovely. It's a pleasure.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you so much for getting in touch and giving us a call today.
No problem. You say, did you want something new to play?
Oh, I would love something new to play. That would be great.
What's your email?
Glossy, Glossy,
yeah,
at soundfusionradio.net.
That's Glossy at soundfusionradio.net. See, there's a completely new project I'm part of now called the Thomas Brown Affair.
Yes.
Which you may have got to know. I mean, if you go on SoundCloud,
I've listened to what's up there. Actually, the tunes that you had up there already. I've had a listen to.
Have you listened to the whole album? Yeah.
Well, I've listened to what's there. I think there were 5 tunes up there.
No, if you go onto SoundCloud,
yes,
and search the Thomas Brown Affair, you'll find the whole album.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
But obviously that's a different project. I'm not fully in control of that. That's just something completely different.
Right, okie dokie.
You know, that's just that's controlled by Mr. Brown, who's the pianist of it, and you know we've got Jazz FM on that, and Smooth are about to play it, and
wonderful.
So it's all going that direction. So yeah, so I'm not dishing it out yet because I think there's only a few people who've got hands on that. But when I do get a chance, I'll get it to you.
That's wonderful. I mean, I did have a listen to the tracks there, and I did have some questions about the tracks that were already up there. If you wanted to answer those, we could include those in today's interview.
Yeah, I'm happy to talk about it. Not a problem.
Wonderful, because I was actually going to start with that because I thought that was your latest project. But if you've been doing something else alongside that, perhaps I can ask you about that first and the track that you've just sent me.
Yeah, not a problem. I'm just putting that on there now.
So what's this project that you're working on currently then, Kenny, that you sent me the tune for?
What, the Thomas Brown Affair?
No, the one before, the one you just sent me.
Oh, the Starlight Project is a collaboration between me and record producer Scott Whitman, who's worked with people like Dane Bowers and stuff like that in the past, a lot of R&B stuff.
Wonderful.
And, yeah, it's just really, you know, smooth, modern soul with a bit of an 80s twist. And, yeah, we're going to do a little EP. Because with me, what it is, I just, you know, I've always, over the years, especially after I parted with the major record companies, it gave me all the freedom I needed to be able to dip my toes into all various different projects that
yes.
I like to do. So, you know, like, I don't know if do you know the Cool Million stuff?
I certainly do. In fact, Frank Ryle was my featured... Well, actually, I had an interview with him on air today.
Yeah.
During the show. It was recorded last week, but we put it out today, and Cool Million have been my featured artist for the week, so there you go.
Yeah, well, I was with Cool Million not long ago in Germany some weeks ago. We did a gig out there, and obviously I'm on the last album of theirs, Cool Million 3.
That's right, yeah.
And along with my wife, she's singing on there as well. She sings one of the tracks on there called You Don't Care.
Yes, great track.
Which she wrote with them. But the beauty of obviously not being signed to a major is that I'm free to pretty much do what I like.
Which is great.
And, yeah, as long as I sort of, you know, maintain my own quality control,
yes,
which always I'd seem to do pretty well, then I can make what I want and do what I want, and I like that. So the Starlight Project is a bit like that, really, a bit like what I've done with Cool Million, a bit like what I've done with Stonebridge or Richard Earnshaw, because I was on the Richard Earnshaw album as well, the Richard Earnshaw in Time album.
Yes.
I did a track with Roy Ayers on that.
Nice.
So, yeah, it just frees you up. And in the old days when you were signed to record companies, you couldn't go to the sweet shop without their permission.
No, that's right. But I don't know. I think, you know, like you say, the freedom is great, and you know, the sort of working with people like Cool Million, you know, Roy Ayers and so on. It must allow you, you know, awesome flexibility in your skills as an artist. You know.
Yeah, I mean, there is nothing better, providing you know what you're doing and you know you've got a pretty good idea of what type of stuff you want to do musically. There is nothing better than being in control of your own destiny. Of course, the days of having a major record company with that clout and that marketing push, those things are wonderful. But then I had my 15 minutes of fame, Glossy, and I've done that. I've been there. I don't bought the T-shirt and not really interested in going back. I'm quite happy with the audience I've got, and even more so now that I'm sort of beginning to edge over to the jazzy world with this piano vocal album with Wayne Brown.
There you go. And then we go on and we talk about the Thomas Brown Affair album for a period of time, and we also talk about quite a few of the individual tracks on that album. We'll be bringing that to you in the special. And then the tune that he sent me that we discussed during that, I will be playing a bit later on in the show. That'll be at 8:45 here on Sound Fusion Radio Breakfast. So you'll hear that new tune from Kenny Thomas at 8:45-ish this morning. And then we continue to talk more about the beginnings of Kenny Thomas's career. You artists produce great songs. We put the great songs out there to the listeners. You know, without you, we can't work. Without us, maybe your listeners don't hear. You know, it's just, it all works for everybody.
Yeah, and we need the DJs to play it. No, yeah. Otherwise it doesn't get heard. No, there is some great music being made. The new Omar album, The Man, is great. The Bluey album, Leap of Faith, is great. The Mara Biondi album, Sun, is great. There's a new Joe album coming out. So there's some quality soul albums being made here and stateside. I mean, yeah, you know, you're not seeing it in the charts.
Well, we featured Mario Biondi and Bluey recently here on this station with full-week features on both. And, you know, Leap of Faith being the album there, and Sun being the album for Mario Biondi leading up to the concert with them and Incognito. So, you know, we had quite a lot of feature of that. You know, we loved the Brit Funk stuff that, you know, Bluey's still just wonderful in what he does, and you know, it's lovely that all you guys all sort of talk and collaborate and work in that way.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, that I think was what was missing perhaps back in the 80s, and you know, I think it would have had a bit more longevity back there if there was a bit more collaboration. I think you'll find Bluey kind of agrees with that. So, you know, I
think we've learned a little bit more from the Americans now. I mean, because they come together and they realise there's safety and strength in numbers, so they come together and do things, and it works. So in Britain, so some people can tend to be a little, over the years, have been a bit more insular, and they say, right, you know, a little bit like a dog with its bowl. You know, this is my bowl, and I'm eating out of it, and don't come anywhere near it. But now that's changed. People are saying, okay, let's come together and let's make some great music.
Yeah.
Because that's the universal language we're tapped into. It's the language of music which crosses all barriers, and you know, and as I say, it's taken me all over the world and met some beautiful people that I never would have seen or met, and countries that, you know, I've never would have visited, and that's music that does that.
I'm hearing you there, Kenny. Lovely. Because I was going to ask you some questions about you from a younger age, if that's okay, because I think that's something I'd like to bring to our listeners. So I know you grew up in Stamford Hill in Hackney.
I was born in Islington, but then we spent a very short while in the Canary Islands, where my mother was from.
Yes.
From Gran Canaria, and we spent a year or so out there, and then we came back to Islington, and then landed, as fate would have it, landed up on that famous hill called Stamford Hill.
Yeah.
Which is quite a unique part of London, if anyone knows it. It's positioned, you know, you've got Tottenham one way, Islington the other, Hackney the other, and Stoke Newington up into the city. It's a unique position. And obviously it's got the, you know, the large Jewish community, and it's very multicultural, and I mean, I wouldn't be having this conversation with you now and be doing music if I hadn't grown up there. No two ways about it. That's where I learnt about funk, reggae, soul.
All the multicultural music that was brought together in the one place.
That's how I got into music. This was the first studio I got into and recorded in was around the corner from Stamford Hill.
So what sort of what was your musical favourites then as a child? What were your who were your idols, should I say?
Well, the first ever record I bought was Stevie Wonder.
Wow!
And I stuck with Stevie because he's the archangel of singing. He's the man. But you know, and then after that, I drifted over to everything, listening from everything from reggae to John Holt to all of the early Aswad and all of that dubwise stuff. I used to listen a lot of the jazz funk. you know, a lot of them, huge amounts of American stuff coming in, the imports. I lived right opposite a little record shop on Stamford Hill called R&B Records, run by a Jewish couple called Rita and Benny. So it didn't stand for Rhythm and Blues; it stood for Rita and Benny. and they're quite famous. They're quite famous in London. They were, that couple now. I don't think they're alive now, but I bought records there, and that's where I bought my first Tina Marie record, and that's Rick James and Earth and Fire and SOS Band, and then moving later on into Luther and Alexander O'Neill and Anita Baker, and you know, the list is endless. You know, and I became a real jazz fusion head, so I was heavily into Herbie Hancock, Chick Corea, Weather Report, Cassiopeia, you know, as I say, probably George Duke, Stanley Clarke.
Yeah, absolutely. All
so I went all
wonderful.
down that with Weather Report. You know, I mean, I could just, you know, if I was to go through a huge litany of names, I'd bore you for a couple of hours. But it was all that, and then there was also, you know, all the real sort of dance jazz funk stuff, that early dance jazz funk like Narada Michael Walden and all that stuff as it came in, and then right through into the late 80s, where the emergence of the Chicago, you know, US house scene. And then fully into the gospel house scene and then the soulful house scene, and as it's developed, you know. So yeah, I mean, I've you know, it's a very, very wide net that I cast for myself back then, and it incorporated all kinds of music. But the 80s for me there was just some fantastic songs being written.
Definitely, because Kenny, you're about the same age as me. I think I'm about a year older than you, and
I'm 45 this year.
Yeah, well, I'm perhaps nearly 2 years older than you. But the things you're saying and the people you're talking about really kind of ring with me, if you know what I mean, in that sense. Because you know, I remember buying one of your albums. It was out the Outstanding one, your first album. I remember
Voices,
back in yeah, that's right. I loved that album, and the other thing I liked about it was you were about my age, so I kind of looked up to you then. I was a very young DJ back in those days, but you know, it was all great. So
I had a conversation. I went to a gig last night in London to see some singers, and they were, you know, one of them pointed out, they said, really, you were the last of that era, because I was doing a sort of an 80s flavour, an 80s sound, although it's all come back round again now. Ironically, with some of the producers doing that sort of funky disco-y 80s stuff. But I suppose I was a lone ranger in the early 90s. I was the only one really pumping out that stuff. I mean, Lisa Stansfield had sort of died down a bit, gone over to America. Loose Ends had sort of done their thing. You know, Soul to Soul had done their thing, and then I suppose I was the last man standing of that sound. And then, of course, after I disappeared, as you made the way to the mid-90s, then you had the complete domination and emergence of fabricated, auto-tuned boy bands and girl bands, which really kept real artistry at bay for some time.
Didn't it just? Absolutely. Can't disagree with that. So, mentioned during the interview there, a little bit of Kenny Thomas, Outstanding. There you go, featured artist Kenny Thomas, and outstanding. We're going back to the interview now, and we talk a little bit about Kenny Thomas and boxing in this particular section, amongst other things. So you were a boxer, is that right?
Yeah, I grew up with boxing.
Yeah.
My dad was a pro. He had a lot of fights, 112 fights my father had.
Yeah.
He ran a boxing club in a place called Alexandra Palace
Yeah.
for best part of 30 years. And, so 3 times a week I was up there training, sparring. I had 40-odd fights, contests that is. And, and it was great period of my life. And it's never left me, boxing. It's never left me. The other, I don't know if you know the boxing game, but the other night I was out with Colin McMillan and Jim McDonald and
I know the names.
Glenn McCrory. I keep in touch with. I've had the pleasure of singing for Muhammad Ali 2 or 3 times. I've sung for Mike Tyson. I sang. Was it the year before last? I did a gig for Roberto Duran.
Wow.
So I get to meet the fighters and keep in touch with that game. And it's really through that game that I got into music professionally, because I'd already started at 18. I went into Eddie Grant's studio, which was around the corner from where I lived, and did my first couple of demos there, first recordings. And then it was really when I was about 21, that my dad bumped into a manager at the time at a boxing show, and he managed a rapper called Moni Love.
Yeah,
He also looked after the Jungle Brothers and a few others. He later went on to look after Carlin Anderson, and it was from the Young Disciples. But anyway, it was at a boxing show that my dad met him and mentioned that I could sing, and he came and had a listen to what I was up to, and within a few weeks of that, we were in the studio recording Outstanding.
Well, yeah, I mean, 22, 23 at the time, in the charts, got to number 11 and stayed there for, 7 weeks, wasn't it, in the charts?
Yeah, it was a long time there, yeah, and that was quite an achievement back in those days.
God,
it fell a lot to get to that position, and then obviously we followed it up with Best, Thinking About Your Love, Hugh Chick, then Best of You, then
Best
the album,
You,
and then Tender Love off of that. But, they were great. I mean, I was a young man and everything, and before I knew it, I was jetting off all over the place on planes, doing gigs all over the shop. Bit of a whirlwind, but it was an interesting moment in time, you know.
Must have been great at that age. I mean, Thinking About Your Love was at number 4. I think that's where that one got to, and then again a number 11 for Best of You, all in the same
when
year.
It's done here, you remember it starts smashing it in other countries.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
And even now I still go abroad and do gigs all over the place. So it's an interesting thing, and a pop career is quite interesting. As I say, I won't go back to it, but it's a strange but interesting phenomenon when you're up there in the charts. And it was different back then, the top of the pops. You had to really work hard and prove yourself, and now you just go on TV and within 1 or 2 auditions you're in front of millions.
Yeah, and it's not always necessarily based on what your talent is. It's
no.
That's the shame of it, Yeah,
you're instantly famous and instantly forgotten at the same time.
Yeah, sort of like
and
everybody's
also,
15
some of these
minutes.
youngsters, because I meet them, I've known some of these people that go through these shows. They're famous, and they say, "Well, what do I do now? I better record an album." And you think, "Wow!" In the old days, we had the album, and that was the very thing we worked to get famous.
Yeah, that's right. And
if you wanted fame,
well, you
I
sold
wanted
plenty
to
of
be
copies.
a musician, and that's what I do now. And people who want to be famous, they're welcome to it. Keep it.
Yeah, but your sort of level of fame, I mean, in the genre of music that this station plays, which is Mobo, you figure quite heavily in that, and with the work that you've done with people like Cool Million, and your own work and the diversity of your work, it sort of keeps you in the right place, if you like. It's not like you say they can keep the fame, but you're an artist and you work that artistry, and I think that's the difference, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I think for me, what the moment where fame counts and popularity counts is that someone plays your record, then that's great. They get to hear it. It's important that the music's more important than me, if you know what I mean. If some people say, "Well, your music's more famous than you, Kenny," I say that's fine with me. They know the records. They don't necessarily need to know the face. That's unimportant. And then the next thing is the moment you step up on stage and you're in front of an audience. You enjoy your moment then.
Yes.
And so it's nice. It becomes very manageable and enjoyable. The days when I had the chart hits and I was on the Wogans and the Jonathan Rosses and you're walking down the road and you can't have a bad hair day. Well, I don't have those anymore. I have no hair days now. But the thing is, you have those sort of days. You think, oh my goodness, I wish I could just flip the switch and turn this off, because I'm not in the mood for being pointed at in Tesco's.
I know.
So yeah, I don't miss it. And I don't think I've fully enjoyed it like some people did, because I just wanted to get on with music. And there are artists like that who just they just want to do the music. They're not so interested in the popularity or the notoriety. But so yeah, it brings me to where I am now in my life, where I'm making the music I want to make, and it's reaching an audience, and I'm really, really comfortable with that.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's a nice place to be, isn't it? Doing what you love in the way you love it, and, that kind of makes work into not work as such, which is lovely for everybody. I was going to say, I've been told you're quite good bit of BT stuff. You used to be a BT engineer.
No, I'm rubbish. That's a big misconception. I don't know who put that story out. I did work for BT because I had to do a day job and earn some money.
Of course, yeah. Because
I'm one of these people that, I don't sit around and wait for Willy Wonka's golden ticket,
No.
I have to work. So back then I was working. One of my day jobs was for some time at BT, and it was while I was at BT I was working. I suppose what you'd call it IT now, on computers.
Yes.
I never ever. Well, I wasn't clever enough to be let near any wiring. And then that was there that I sort of my career started to take off, and I did the record deal. And off we went. But ironically, all these 20 odd years later, I went out for a quick beer with some of my old mates from BT the other day. It was like I don't know. It's like I was working with them yesterday. Do you know what I mean?
Isn't that lovely?
20 odd years on, and we just picked up where we left off. It was crazy.
Brilliant. Oh, that's isn't that lovely? Just great. Oh. So where are you going now? What's next for Kenny Thomas?
What's next for me is recording. I'm always back in the studio, so I'm going to record some more stuff with Wayne Brown for the Thomas Brown Affair. I've got my finger just doing another little guest vocal on a project, which I suppose you'd call it very, very deep, soulful sort of dance stuff. Really nice stuff. I don't know if you follow that scene, but it's something.
I do a Soulful House show on a Thursday night, back to back in the mix.
Then you'll be on my hit list when I send some of this stuff to you. But what it is, it's largely the new track that I've done, which is complete this week, is very, very soulful. It's down that Defected kind of route.
Wonderful. Please let me play
and my wife's just done a track that's gone down that route, which is to say Robbie Rivera's all over, and there's a few things going on. So yeah, I'll keep my fingers in firmly in that pie. And then the other thing is there's gigs coming up. I'm about to rehearse with Thomas Brown. We're doing the Birmingham Jazz. What's it called? It'll come to me. Jam House.
Yes.
Birmingham Jam House, 31st of January of July, and that basically kicks off what we're doing, and we'll be doing more dates later this year. And also you can sort of catch me. I've just rehearsed a brand new live band 2 weeks ago, which I'm about to dive into some more rehearsals. So I'm going to be going out later this year again doing the soul-y stuff with the new band, and they're all really, really hot musicians. So more of it, and I think we're going to start to, edge it over to some funk as well. I want to start to introduce some real, sort of deeper stuff on that side.
That sounds absolutely great, Kenny, and we're looking forward to all of that, because that's all genres that we play here on Sound Fusion Radio, so we'll be loving all of that. Brilliant.
And hopefully I'll see you at a gig.
Well, yeah, I mean, we're at the Solstice tomorrow, so...
Are you at the Solstice tomorrow?
Yeah, we'll be there tomorrow. Myself and some of the Breakfast Show crew will be there, so and quite a lot of me mates. So
listen, I mean, I'm quite busy tomorrow daytime with a few bits, but I know it goes on till late, doesn't it? It goes on till 11.
That's right, yeah.
Well, what I've done is, when I get everything out of the way tomorrow, what I've got to do is my dad's birthday. He's not very well, he's in a nursing home, so... So I've been dealing with that. I'm going to go, and he's got Alzheimer's, bless him. So we're going to go and spend some time with him, and I've got a few other bits to do. But then after that, I'm thinking of getting a pal of mine to pop me up there. We've got a couple of wristbands, and so I may seek you out. Do you know where you'll exactly be?
I don't know exactly where we'll be there, but... Well, I mean, I can keep an eye out for you, because I'll recognise you for sure. And
yeah, well, you know what I look like now in my skinhead.
Yeah, well, so, there you go. I've got a fairly late picture on our website, actually. So
fine.
I know what you look like.
So what I'll do is, keep an eye out and say hello, and we'll be up there having a couple of beers and listening to some sounds.
Brilliant, Kenny. That's absolutely
so hopefully
fantastic.
I'll see you tomorrow.
Yeah, that would be really great. Thanks, Kenny.
Wonderful.
And thanks for your time today, and thanks for the lovely conversation, because it's been about all sorts, and it's just flowed, I think. That's great.
Yeah, Glossy, the pleasure's mine, mate. You take care now.
Yeah, you take care.
All the best.
See
Bye,
you soon.
mate.
All the best.
Bye,
Take
bye.
care. Bye, mate. Bye. Bye. There you go. Exclusive interview there with the fantastic Kenny Thomas. What a lovely guy. And like I said, we did speak an awful lot more about some other things, which I'm going to bring to you in a very, very special show where we're going to feature the Thomas Brown Affair, which is the latest release coming from Kenny Thomas and Wayne Brown. So seriously looking forward to that. And we've had a listen and got a couple of pieces on promo from that particular album. Absolutely loving it. And I can't wait to bring that to you and let you have a listen, along with lots of other of Kenny Thomas's classics. That'll probably be a 2 or 3 hour special, which we'll be bringing your way. So seriously looking forward to doing that.